I'm Eric Erickson. These are the four things you need to know this afternoon. Up first, Trump's Iran strategy. Is it diplomacy or delay? President Trump, who just a few days ago was talking tough about Iran missing its chance to negotiate, is now signaling he'll wait up to 2 weeks before deciding whether to strike Iran's nuclear program. The administration says there's a significant possibility of discussions with Tehran. Now, folks, let's be clear. This is a real shift in tone. The president is dialing back the war talk, at least for now. Is this a sign of strategic patience or buying time? Remember, the Trump doctrine has always been unpredictable. Maximum pressure one day, a handshake the next. By the way, look over the Middle East. It's going to take up to 2 weeks to get the Navy in position. Hint, hint. Here's the reality. Iran's nuclear ambitions haven't changed overnight. Tehran still insists its program is for civilian purposes, even though they buried it 300 feet underground with enriched uranium not necessary for civilian programs. Israel and much of the West, they're not buying it. Trump's move gives diplomacy a window, but it also gives Iran time to reposition, harden sights, or rally international support. I'm all for peace through strength, but I'm also skeptical of endless war and endless talk. The question is whether this pause is a calculated move to strengthen America's hand or just another example of kicking the can down the road, something we've seen both parties do for decades to the extent Iran is on the verge of a nuclear weapon. Let's pivot to Europe. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz has a call with Benjamin Netanyahu urging moderation in the situation in the Middle East. Germany, along with Britain and France, is pushing for new talks with Iran in Geneva, hoping to get assurances Iran's nuclear program stays civilian. Iran's foreign minister is going to actually join the meeting. It's going to happen tomorrow. Now, while all of this has happened, we need to understand that Europe's position is driven by two things: fear of a wider regional war and a desire to keep the Iran nuclear deal or something like it alive. But we shouldn't kid ourselves. European leaders have a spotty record when it comes to stopping Iran's nuclear ambitions. They talk tough, but when push comes to shove, they're usually a pushover and opt for more talks. Meanwhile, Israel insists its military actions are about preventing Iran from getting the bomb, while Iran says it's all peaceful. Who do you trust? I want to trust, but I want to verify it. In this case, we got to verify it to be sure. And the verification we need can just come from a simple question. If the Iranian nuclear program is for civilian use, why bury it 300 feet under a mountain? Now, also, we shouldn't ignore the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, which is also something Germany is concerned about. They're urging Israel to follow international law as the civilian death toll rises and as restrictions bite. It's a reminder these conflicts are never as simple as the headlines suggest. Up next, Donald Trump's immigration raids are prioritizing criminals. Tom Homan, Trump's border czar, says the administration will keep up worksite immigration raids, including on farms and hotels, but is going to focus on criminals first. Now, this comes after raids were started and then stopped and then started again. As conservatives, we want the law enforced, but we also know mass raids on farms and hotels can actually disrupt local economies, especially in places like Georgia and California, where agriculture is so necessary for the economy. Prioritizing criminals makes sense, but the devil's in the detail. Are we really targeting the worst offenders, or are we just making headlines? Trump supporters wanted the mass deportations to continue. The Ag Secretary was willing to roll things back because of the industrial demands within the economy for agriculture industry and for things like hospitals, but now they're ramping back up again. We've got a broken immigration system no party has fixed. Until Congress acts, we're going to be lurching from one executive order to the next, but it sounds like the president is trying to strike the right balance of prioritizing deportations just of criminals. Now, lastly, we've got the GOP debt limit hike. Are they fiscal hawks or hypocrites? We need to talk about the elephant in the room, the national debt. Senate Republicans have rolled out a bill to raise the debt ceiling by $5.1 trillion. That's trillion with a T. This is a bigger increase than the $4 trillion the House approved last month. It comes as the Republicans are pushing nearly $4 trillion in new tax cuts. Let's call this what this is. It's a massive break from Republican precedent. For years, the GOP has said debt limit increases need to come with spending cuts. Now, with control of Congress and the White House, they're ready to hike the limit and add to the debt without serious reforms. The Congressional Budget Office says the House plan alone would add $3.4 trillion of debt over the next decade, even after accounting for some spending cuts. The benefits? Well, cuts are going to come to Medicaid and food assistance. That's going to hurt some people, but many of them, it's necessary reform. Americans are going to get their tax cuts preserved, but the Democrats say the richest Americans will get the boost and the poor are going to lose out. That's not really true. That's spin. The bottom line, however, is that if Republicans can't get something done, everybody's taxes are going to go up. Here's a stat that should make every fiscal conservative cringe. The bottom 10% of earners are going to lose $1,559 a year in benefits, while the top 10% are going to gain over $12,000. Middle class gains are modest, $500 a year. At the same time, you do need to recognize that those top income earners who are going to benefit from the bill create most of the jobs in the country, and they spend their resources to actually hire people into the economy. So giving tax breaks to those people, they're actually the income economic generators in the country. And it's fair to do that when you understand how much they contribute to creating jobs and business in the country. Now, some conservatives are pushing back. They're saying the bill doesn't go far enough to cut spending or reform entitlements. But let's be honest, most Republicans are willing to accept bigger deficits if it means the tax cuts can grow and we don't get the big tax increases back. Donald Trump himself has never made debt reduction a priority. He's called himself the king of debt. He wants a bill he can tout as a win. Whether he can get this out of the House and the Senate is another matter. Both parties talk about fiscal responsibility, but when they're in power, the debt keeps rising. The only difference is which priorities get funded. Republicans and Democrats alike, they kind of enjoy picking the winners and losers. Now, the common thread in all these stories is whether it's Iran, immigration, or the national debt, we see a lot of tough talk followed by hedging, half measures, and political calculation. On Iran, President Trump is pausing for diplomacy, but it's unclear if this is strategy or stalling. Europe is talking restraint, but their track record on Iran is terrible. Immigration enforcement is tough in rhetoric, but it's kind of muddled in practice. And Republicans, the self-styled party fiscal discipline, are on track to add trillions to the debt while cutting taxes and really not doing a whole lot else. As a conservative, I want policies that actually are going to make us strong, are tough, and are honest. I'm skeptical of Democrats who promise the moon with no plan to pay for it, and I'm skeptical of Republicans who talk fiscal discipline but run up the credit card when it suits them. We need real solutions, not just slogans. Leaders who will tell us the truth, not just what we want to hear. We need a media that's holding both sides accountable, not just picking one side and picking on the other. That's my take. No spin, just the facts. A healthy dose of skepticism for everybody in Washington. I'm Eric Erickson. These are the 4 things you need to know this afternoon. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube page at EW Erickson. Search your podcast app for the 4 things to know this afternoon. Please stay engaged, stay informed, and above all else, keep the faith.